The question echoes across the stars. The great chamber of the Galactic Council was a place where the voices of 1,000 worlds had echoed for centuries, yet never before had it trembled with such confusion and disbelief. The announcement had come without warning. A simple broadcast from Earth stating that humanity would attend the Grand Summit with only a single vessel. The message was polite, respectful, and yet the meaning behind it sent ripples of shock across the galactic stage. Why would a young species, one that had only recently earned its place among the stars, dare to appear with just one ship, when every other power brought fleets of 100 or more? The counselors muttered among themselves, their voices blending into a storm of noise. The insectoid delegates clicked their mandibles in mocking rhythm. The scaled reptilians hissed with laughter. The avian clans ruffled their feathers in open amusement. Even the cold machines of the Orion Syndicate pulsed their lights in patterns of ridicule. All of them agreed on one thing. Humans were arrogant beyond measure or foolish beyond salvation. The very idea of sending one ship into the heart of galactic politics was absurd, a declaration that bordered on insult. Yet beneath the layers of mockery, a current of unease flowed quietly, because no one truly understood what humans were capable of. Humanity had entered the galactic stage less than 2 decades ago, but in that short time, they had earned a reputation that was hard to define. They were survivors of a death world, a planet that forged them in fire, storms, hunger, and endless struggle. They had endured wars that consumed continents and disasters that would have wiped out gentler species. Their minds were unpredictable, their emotions fierce, and their ability to adapt almost unnatural. Some admired them, others feared them, but most dismissed them as reckless children too wild to survive long among the stars. Yet when the message arrived saying that only one ship would represent Earth, even the most dismissive of species paused to wonder as the news spread. Laughter filled the chambers of power across empires. The Varkath Empire declared that humanity must have run out of resources, their little world too poor to build a proper fleet. The Zelth Dominion sneered that humans were showing their true weakness, hiding their desperation behind empty pride. The Kothari clans joked that one human ship would make fine target practice for their hunters. Even neutral observers allowed themselves to laugh. But far from the crowded halls of the council, whispers began to spread in darker corners. Whispers that remembered fragments of stories, fragments of warnings from explorers who had fought against humans before and had not returned. The human ship itself had not yet arrived, and still its absence was louder than the roar of 1,000 warships. Council records showed no details of its design, no blueprints, no shared data. The humans had kept it hidden, a mystery that only deepened the tension. What kind of vessel was so important that Earth would trust it alone to carry the weight of their future among the stars? Was it arrogance, or was it something more deliberate? A kind of message meant to unsettle the proud powers who believed themselves untouchable. The question grew and spread, echoing from chamber to chamber, from world to world. Why did the humans send just one ship? In the heart of Earth's command chambers, far from alien eyes, the human leaders knew exactly what they were doing. They had debated for months, weighing the risk of showing weakness against the power of sending a statement no empire could ignore. Humanity could have sent fleets. They could have poured every ship they had into a grand procession, but they knew that such displays would only blend into the endless noise of the galaxy. Every empire could muster fleets, every power could wave banners of strength, but no empire would ever dare to arrive with only one. That single choice would turn all eyes on them, and in those eyes humanity would plant both curiosity and fear. As the day of arrival drew near, the galaxy prepared to witness the humans' folly. Some expected laughter and humiliation. Others predicted a quick destruction when rival empires tested the lone vessel. But a rare few, the quiet ones who studied history and patterns, began to feel the weight of unease, for they knew that humanity never acted without reason. And if one ship was all they sent, then that ship must be something the galaxy was not ready to face. And so the question echoed louder and louder across the stars, a question that carried both mockery and dread. Why did the humans send just one ship arrival of the black vessel? The day finally came when the human ship arrived at the council world, and the stars themselves seemed to hold their breath. The orbital lanes above the planet were filled with thousands of vessels from every empire, glittering like jewels, each one a symbol of pride and power. Fleets stretched across the darkness, banners of light and color marking their allegiance, carriers and escorts arrayed in formation to impress and intimidate. Against this vast and dazzling backdrop, the humans entered with only a single ship, a solitary shadow gliding silently across the void. There were no escorts, no fanfare, no bursts of light announcing its presence. It emerged from the edge of the system like a predator slipping into the hunting grounds, sleek and black, a shape that seemed to drink in the starlight. The chatter across the communication networks was immediate. Thousands of species spoke at once, mocking the small procession. Many expected a modest diplomatic cruiser, something fragile and ceremonial, meant only to carry ambassadors in safety. But what unfolded before their eyes silenced the laughter in a way no one expected. The vessel was unlike any known design. It was long and angular, its surface dark as obsidian, reflecting almost nothing of the suns around it. No one could read its hull material, and no signal could penetrate its armor. It gave no registry codes, no identification beyond the stark emblem of Earth painted in quiet defiance across its side. To the eyes of the galaxy, it was not a warship, not a cruiser, not a vessel that matched any known classification. It was something else entirely, a craft built with secrets hidden deep inside. At first the counselors tried to laugh it away. The avian clans cawed that humans must have painted their ship black to hide how flimsy it really was. The reptilian clans hissed that it was a bluff, an empty shell meant to frighten the weak. Yet even as they mocked, they studied it with uneasy eyes. Their sensors returned nothing but static when aimed at the vessel. Their probes found no answers, and their ships dared not approach too closely. The black ship radiated no energy signature, no engine trails, no sign of strain as it moved. It simply glided across the system as though the void itself carried it. The absence of answers was more terrifying than any display of strength. When the ship entered orbit above the Council planet, it did not take a position of submission as the other fleets had. Every other empire kept their ships at respectful distance, waiting for clearance, holding to traditions. But the human vessel cut across the lanes and anchored itself in the highest orbit directly above the great chamber itself, its dark shadow stretching across the capital city like a mark of warning. Thousands of ships moved nervously aside to give it space, and not a single empire dared to block its path. The mocking laughter that had echoed across the council in the weeks before now turned into murmurs of unease, whispers that spread through every channel. Why would humans send such a vessel, and what power did it carry within? The docking platform was prepared, gleaming in the light of the suns. Council guards in ceremonial armor lined the pathways, while diplomats of every race gathered to watch the human delegation disembark. Many expected a large entourage, dozens of officials and soldiers to accompany the human representatives. Instead, the airlock hissed open and only 3 figures emerged, clad in simple uniforms without ornament, their faces calm and unreadable. Behind them, the open airlock revealed nothing of the ship's interior, only darkness, as though the vessel itself refused to share its secrets. The 3 humans walked with steady steps, not hurried, not proud, simply certain of their place. The council delegates leaned forward to watch, their expressions mixed between ridicule and unease. The insectoid delegates clicked their mandibles in disdain, the scaled ones curled their lips, the avians shifted their feathers. Yet none could shake the feeling that something about this arrival was deliberate, that the humans were not ignorant of their laughter, but had chosen to arrive in this manner for a reason. The silence that followed their entrance was heavy, a silence that seemed to stretch across the hall and into the stars themselves. The black vessel remained in orbit above, silent and watchful, its dark hull catching the gaze of every observer who dared look upon it in the chamber below. Voices rose again, but they were different now. There was still mockery, still disbelief, but beneath it all was a quiet pulse of fear. No one understood the ship, no one could see inside it, and no one could predict what the humans intended. Questions filled the minds of every counselor and every commander watching from their fleets. Why one ship? Why this ship? Why now? And though no one dared say it aloud, many felt the same unsettling truth rising within them. The humans had not come to beg for acceptance or to play by the rules of the empires. They had come to deliver a message, and that message was written in the silent shadow of the black vessel that hung above the council world. Mockery turns to unease. The black vessel hovered above the council world like a silent shadow, and its presence became the single topic of every conversation across the galaxy. At first, the other species clung to their pride and continued to laugh, though their laughter carried less weight now and sounded more like a shield against the fear creeping into their voices. The insectoid leaders declared that the human ship must be hollow, built for intimidation alone with no real strength within. The reptilian warlords hissed in amusement and spread stories that the humans had sent only one vessel, because their industry was too weak to create more. The avian clans filled their networks with mocking songs painting humans as desperate pretenders. On the surface of the council planet, the delegates mirrored these reactions, raising their voices high to remind themselves of their superiority. Yet beneath the mockery, unease stirred and grew with every hour that the human vessel remained silent and still. The first to act were the proud Kothari clans, hunters who respected only strength and believed fear was weakness. A squadron of their cruisers moved closer to the human ship under the claim of innocent inspection. The moment their sensors locked onto the black vessel, they found only static. No heat signature, no radiation, no sign of propulsion. It was as if the ship was not truly there. The Kothari commanders grew irritated and ordered their ships to press closer. Warnings were sent from the council authority advising restraint, but the Kothari ignored them. When their squadron entered within striking distance, the black vessel reacted. It did not fire missiles, it did not unleash beams of energy. Instead, every Kothari system shut down at once, their engines stalled, their weapons died, and their communication vanished. For 3 long minutes, the proud hunters drifted helplessly in the void, while the human vessel remained unmoving. Then just as suddenly the systems returned and the ship scrambled back to safety in shame. Whispers spread like wildfire. No empire had ever seen technology that could disable an entire fleet without firing a shot. Many believed it to be an illusion. Others claimed it was a trick. But the fear in the eyes of the Kothari commanders when they returned could not be hidden. Their usual boasting was absent, and their silence spoke louder than any declaration. In the council chambers, debates grew heated. Some demanded that the humans be sanctioned for aggression. Others argued that the incident was provoked by the Kothari themselves. But no one could deny the truth. The single ship had held back a fleet without damage or effort. More empires attempted to pierce the secrets of the vessel. The Orion Syndicate machines aimed their most advanced scanners, only to find their data loops corrupted beyond repair. The Zelth Dominion sent stealth drones, but none returned. Even the great Varkath Empire, whose fleets had dominated the stars for centuries, could not read even the surface temperature of the hull. With each failure, the laughter faded further, replaced by careful whispers, hushed councils, and private discussions behind sealed doors. The mocking words that had once filled the air now came fewer and fewer, as every empire realized the truth that ignorance was more terrifying than knowledge. The one ship held mysteries no one dared claim to understand. The human delegates themselves remained calm throughout. They walked the halls of the council with quiet confidence, listening more than speaking, their presence steady and controlled. Their silence was unnerving, as though they knew exactly what would unfold. Other ambassadors tried to bait them into arguments or goad them into revealing details, but the humans responded with polite smiles and measured words. It became clear to everyone that the humans had no intention of defending themselves with speeches. Their ship above was their voice, and its silent shadow spoke louder than any argument. By the end of the first cycle after arrival, the atmosphere of the council had changed completely. Where once there had been only derision, now there was tension so thick that even the most arrogant empires felt it. Commanders no longer laughed when they looked at the black vessel. Diplomats no longer mocked when they saw the human representatives. Instead, they spoke in cautious tones, measuring each word, unwilling to reveal the unease that gnawed at them. Across the stars, the broadcast that once ridiculed humanity began to shift. Commentators who had laughed at the single ship now spoke with nervous curiosity, their voices carrying the same question repeated again and again. What power lay hidden within that one vessel, and what did the humans intend to do with it? The galaxy had thought it safe to mock, believing humans had come to make fools of themselves. But as the hours passed and the shadow of the ship remained, laughter turned to quiet dread, and every empire began to ask the same question in fear. Why did the humans send just one ship? The first demonstration. The silence surrounding the human ship could not last forever, and soon the galaxy demanded proof. Voices rose in the council chamber, accusing the humans of playing games, of hiding behind shadows and illusions. The reptilian warlords shouted that humanity had insulted the council by arriving with a single vessel, and that such arrogance could not go unanswered. The avian clans added their calls, mocking the humans and urging them to prove their worth or be cast out. Even the insectoid delegations, usually cautious, joined in, saying that the black vessel was nothing more than a hollow shell designed to frighten the weak. The chorus grew louder until it echoed through every hall of power. The pressure became too great to ignore, and so humanity made a decision. The human delegation requested a demonstration in open space, far from the council world, where no innocents would be harmed. Many believed this to be a bluff, expecting the humans to back down at the last moment. Yet when the day came, the black vessel glided from orbit and led the council fleets to a barren moon at the edge of the system. There, under the eyes of thousands of ships and billions of spectators watching across the stars, the humans prepared to answer the demands of the galaxy. The council had arranged a test. A small fleet of drones, heavily armored and programmed for combat, was released across the moon's surface. They represented targets no single ship could easily destroy, a challenge meant to expose the limits of human technology. The spectators filled the channels with laughter once more, certain that the humans would be humiliated in front of the entire galaxy. The human delegates, however, stood silently aboard their ship, their calm expressions never faltering as the black vessel aligned itself with the barren moon below. At first nothing happened. The ship remained still, no weapons visible, no energy signatures rising. Then, without warning, a pulse of invisible force swept across the battlefield. Every drone on the surface froze in place, their systems locked by something no one could identify. A second later, the ground itself shook as the black vessel unleashed kinetic strikes from orbit. There was no visible weapon, no bright beam, no glowing missile, only the sudden impact of unimaginable speed. In an instant, the moon's crust split apart. Craters opened wider than cities, and the armored drones were obliterated where they stood. The force of the strikes rippled through the barren world, leaving scars that would remain for millennia. The spectators gasped in shock as entire mountains vanished under the silent assault. Before the galaxy could recover from the sight, the human vessel revealed its second secret. A shimmering field extended from its hull, bending light and twisting space itself. The remaining drones in orbit attempted to fire, but their shots curved away as though the very fabric of reality rejected them. Lasers bent into arcs, missiles turned aside, and energy beams dissipated into nothing. The black vessel drifted forward unharmed, wrapped in its silent shield, an image of inevitability that no weapon could touch. The demonstration lasted only minutes, but it changed everything. When the black vessel finally withdrew, the barren moon was no more than a shattered ruin drifting in fragments. The council fleets that had witnessed the event were silent, their commanders staring at their screens in disbelief. No one laughed now. No one called the humans weak or arrogant. For the first time, the galaxy understood that the one ship carried power greater than entire armadas back in the council chambers. The debates shifted. No longer did the empires argue about human arrogance. Instead, they argued about human intent. Some feared that the demonstration was a declaration of war, a warning that humans could shatter worlds at will. Others insisted that it was restraint, that the humans had chosen an empty moon rather than an enemy fleet to show they sought peace rather than conquest. Yet no one could deny the truth that one ship had accomplished what no empire had ever done before. It had destroyed an entire battlefield in silence and returned without a scratch. The human delegation gave no speeches of triumph, no boasts, no threats. They merely stood before the council and said in calm voices that humanity wished only for peace, but would never bow to threats or mockery. Their message was simple, and their vessel above made it clear. Humanity did not need fleets to prove its strength. One ship was enough. The empires left the chamber in silence, their arrogance shaken, their certainty gone. Across the stars, the demonstration was replayed 1,000,000 times, each image searing into the minds of every species. The question that had begun in mockery now returned in fear, louder than ever. Why did the humans send just one ship? Whispers of old wars. The galaxy could not forget what it had seen. The shattered remains of the barren moon drifted in silent testimony to the power of the human vessel, and the memory of that demonstration spread like fire through every system. No amount of denial could erase the truth, and yet the empires searched desperately for explanations. They said the humans had used forbidden technology. They said the demonstration was staged. They said it was an illusion meant to deceive. But behind the bravado, fear took root, and it grew faster than any counselor dared admit. For the first time, Many began to recall fragments of history that had been buried for generations. Stories of wars that most believed to be myths. There were whispers of an ancient conflict, one that had raged long before the council was ever formed. Records spoke of a young species that rose from a death world, a species that fought with such ferocity that coalitions of entire empires had been forged to contain them. These records were scattered and incomplete, erased by time and politics, yet they all carried the same warning, that the species had nearly destroyed the galaxy's balance before vanishing into silence. Many dismissed these tales as legends, yet, when the human vessel revealed its power, the whispers began to spread once more. Could it be that the legends had been true all along? The archivists of the Orion Syndicate scoured their deep databanks and found broken fragments of data describing fleets lost without trace in battles against an unknown enemy. The reptilian warlords uncovered carvings on forgotten worlds showing humans wielding weapons of unimaginable force. Even the avian clans, who lived by oral tradition, found old songs warning of predators who came from a blue and green world and who left only ruins behind. The stories were too scattered to form a complete picture, but the fragments aligned too closely to ignore. The species in those records had been human, and they had fought wars that no one alive could fully remember in the council chambers. Fear mixed with denial. Some demanded the humans explain themselves, to admit whether they had indeed waged such wars in the past. The human delegation remained calm as always, offering no confirmation and no denial, leaving the galaxy to wrestle with its own uncertainty. This silence made the unease worse, for it allowed the imaginations of their rivals to run wild. If humanity had once wielded such power and chosen to withdraw from the stars, what reason had they to return now with a single ship that could humble entire fleets across the empires? Ordinary citizens began to debate among themselves. Some argued that humanity must be a peaceful race, for if they truly had the power to shatter moons and defeat coalitions, they would have conquered the galaxy long ago. Others believed the humans had merely been waiting, biding their time until the galaxy grew complacent and soft, and now they had returned to reclaim their dominance. Both views spread quickly and both carried fear, for whether humanity sought peace or conquest, their strength could not be denied. Meanwhile, within the council itself, the most powerful empires grew restless. The Varkath Empire demanded an alliance of fleets to counterbalance human strength. The Zelth Dominion called for sanctions, insisting that humanity be forced to share the technology of their vessel. The Kothari clans whispered of striking first, before the humans could strike them. But none of these ideas gained momentum, for even the most prideful commanders admitted the truth that a preemptive strike might lead to annihilation. Fear paralyzed the galaxy, and the humans said nothing to ease it. The human ship above the council world remained silent, casting its long shadow day after day. No engines roared, no weapons shone, yet its presence alone kept entire fleets at bay. It became a symbol, a reminder that humanity did not need numbers to command respect. The silence of the vessel was a constant message, speaking louder than any broadcast could. The question that echoed across the stars was no longer born of mockery, but of dread and awe. What had humanity endured in those forgotten wars, and what had they brought back with them in hidden corners of the galaxy? Scholars pieced together what they could. They whispered that humanity had fought not just empires but entire coalitions, united against them, and yet those coalitions had crumbled. They speculated that humanity had withdrawn not in defeat, but by choice, retreating to their homeworld to recover, rebuild, and wait. If this was true, then the single black vessel above the council world was not arrogance, but warning. It was a reminder to the galaxy that the humans had returned, and that their restraint should not be mistaken for weakness. The counselors knew this truth in their hearts, though many tried to deny it with words. They looked upon the humans with new eyes, no longer mocking but cautious, no longer dismissive but fearful. Every empire began to wonder what would happen if they pushed too far, if they mocked too loudly, if they tested the patience of the species that had survived wars no one remembered. Humanity had sent only one ship, but in its silence and shadow they carried the weight of old wars that still haunted the galaxy. And so the whispers spread until they became a storm that no leader could ignore. The humans had fought before, and they had not lost. The galaxy trembled to imagine what might come if they fought again. The silent challenge. The humans continued to hover above the council world, and no one dared to approach too closely or to speak too loudly for fear that the smallest misstep might provoke a reaction that no one could contain. The presence of a single human ship had changed everything without a single shot being fired or a single order given. The empires had gathered their fleets in secret, and their commanders debated endlessly about the intentions of the humans. Some argued that this was a show of strength meant to warn the galaxy. Others whispered that the humans had returned because they sensed weakness in the stars, and they were testing every empire to see how they would respond. The Varkath Empire prepared warships in silent hangars, while their admirals ran simulations of every possible engagement. They studied human records and pieced together fragments of battles lost long ago, hoping to find some weakness. But the more they learned, the more they feared the humans were not reckless and they were not careless. Their actions were precise and deliberate, and the echoes of past conflicts showed that they could turn even overwhelming odds into victory, with ingenuity and courage. In the corridors of the council chambers, the debate raged on. Some leaders demanded an immediate strike to show the humans that the galaxy would not bow. Some sought diplomacy, hoping to understand what the humans wanted and to prevent further escalation. Others secretly planned alliances that could withstand any retaliation, but all of them knew in their hearts that the humans were not like any other species they had faced before. They had seen empires rise and fall, and still humanity endured and returned stronger than before. The human ship remained silent above the council world, as if it were listening and waiting, and its mere presence caused unease and fascination among the onlookers, citizens in orbiting. Cities watched the black vessel and speculated endlessly. Some said it contained entire fleets of humans hidden within others, claimed that it was a single pilot with knowledge that could destroy worlds. Others believed that the humans had weapons that could reach any corner of the galaxy in seconds, and that their patience was a weapon in itself. Across the stars, the human command was calm as always, and its delegation spoke when necessary, and yet every word was measured and every movement calculated. Their diplomats did not seek to provoke, yet they did not yield to pressure. They allowed the galaxy to imagine threats larger than any fleet could contain, because they understood that fear could be a tool more powerful than firepower. The humans knew the value of silence and observation, and they let the empires reveal their own weaknesses through their haste and their greed. The avian clans who had once sung of humans as monsters now whispered of their discipline and foresight. They studied the black vessel as if it were a teacher, and wondered how a single ship could command the attention of entire fleets. The reptilian warlords scowled at the silence and tried to imagine traps hidden within it, but found that every strategy they considered fell apart under scrutiny. The scholars of the Orion Syndicate wrote frantic reports of probabilities and calculations, but even their most detailed analysis failed to provide a clear answer. Humanity had become a variable that no one could predict, and yet they were confident in their place among the stars. Finally, the council realized that the humans had sent only one ship, not because they lacked resources, but because they wanted to show restraint. They could have sent fleets to overwhelm and destroy, yet they chose to return with a single vessel as a reminder of what they could do, and as a test of how the galaxy would react. This realization caused tension to rise higher than any weapons could, and the leaders understood that the humans were not to be challenged recklessly. They had returned to the galaxy with patience and strategy, and their quiet dominance was more frightening than any loud display of force. The empires began to speak of treaties and negotiations, of demonstrations of loyalty and of alliances, meant to placate a species that had proven its superiority, the humans observed. Without interference, and their delegation smiled only when appropriate. Their strategy was simple yet terrifying. They had reminded the galaxy that the past wars had been only the beginning, and that the humans had endured and evolved beyond the reach of fear and expectation. The black vessel remained above the council world, and its silence spoke louder than any council session or fleet deployment could. Humanity had returned, and the galaxy was only beginning to understand that this was not a mere visit but a silent challenge to all who believed they understood power. The human verdict. The council had grown restless, and tension filled every chamber and hallway as the black human ship hung silently above the world like a shadow that refused to leave. The empires had gathered their fleets as if expecting a strike, and their leaders paced endlessly, calculating every possible outcome, while the citizens of the planets below watched in fear and awe, wondering what the humans would do next. No one could ignore the fact that a single ship had caused the galaxy to pause and reconsider everything they thought they knew about power and control. Inside the human ship, the crew moved with quiet precision. Each action measured, each decision deliberate and calculated. They did not speak unnecessarily, and yet their presence radiated authority and calmness. The captain of the vessel observed the council world below and considered the countless histories of conflicts and mistakes that had shaped the galaxy. They understood that the empires would react with pride and fear, and that patience would be the greatest weapon at their disposal. Humanity had survived countless wars, and survived by using strategy and courage, and now they were demonstrating that the galaxy could not intimidate them with numbers or threats. The council leaders began to realize the truth slowly and reluctantly. The humans had not sent only one ship because they were weak. They had sent only one ship because they were confident. They did not need to overwhelm to demonstrate superiority. The humans wanted the galaxy to see the power of strategy, the value of restraint, and the consequence of underestimating a species that had learned to thrive in adversity. Every empire had assumed humans were reckless or desperate, yet here they were proving that silence could speak louder than fleets of warships, and patience could break the pride of the strongest leaders without a single shot being fired. Across the council world, debates erupted as alliances shifted and secret communications passed between fleets. Some sought to propose treaties, others hoped to show respect and deference, while still others whispered of plans to deceive the humans and gain advantage. Yet even those who were boldest in plotting realized that the humans were already aware of every thought and movement. Their observation had penetrated the galaxy like light-piercing darkness, and their presence alone had forced reflection and fear into every corner of power. The humans did not act with arrogance or cruelty. Their delegation descended slowly to the council chambers, and when they spoke, their words were measured and precise. They reminded the empires of history and of the countless wars that humans had survived, and of the ingenuity and resolve that had allowed them to prevail. They spoke of cooperation and challenge, and the importance of understanding and respect. Their words carried authority not because of threat but because of truth, because they reflected the reality that humans had endured what no one else could, and had emerged stronger and wiser than anyone imagined. The council listened, and slowly, a new understanding began to form. Fear was replaced by cautious respect, and arrogance gave way to careful consideration. The empires realized that the humans had returned not to conquer or destroy, but to observe, test, and remind the galaxy of the consequences of underestimation. The humans had shown that power was not always measured in numbers or firepower, but in discipline, courage, and the ability to endure and adapt. When the humans finally departed, the black ship moved silently back into the void of space, leaving behind fleets that were still calculating the implications and leaders who were still reconsidering their strategies. Every empire had been challenged, and every empire had learned that humanity was not a species to be ignored, underestimated, or provoked recklessly. The galaxy had witnessed a lesson in strategy, patience, and superiority without a single battle being fought, and the impression would not fade for centuries. The council returned to their chambers to rethink treaties and alliances, and the citizens of the planets below spoke in hushed voices about the humans who had returned, and had proven that even one ship could command attention and respect across the stars. The humans had left a message clear and simple that echoed through the corridors and hangars and fleets, that no matter how the galaxy tried to measure power, there was always a species that defied expectation and redefined strength and resilience. The black vessel became a symbol of patience, discipline, and the ultimate test of wisdom, and the galaxy would never again take humanity lightly. And so the humans sailed away, leaving the stars to reflect on the silent verdict of a single ship, and the empires to adjust their pride and plans for the future. The humans had returned, and their presence had reshaped the galaxy without destruction or chaos, and the lesson they left behind was undeniable: that power could be quiet, patience could be terrifying, and intelligence tempered by experience could conquer more than fleets or armies. Humanity's last message. The galaxy was silent after the black human ship had vanished into the infinite expanse, leaving behind only whispers of awe and disbelief. Across every empire, the leaders who had once prided themselves on power and fleets now sat in uneasy contemplation, knowing that the humans had reshaped their understanding of strength without firing a single shot or engaging in open conflict. Even the bravest generals felt the weight of restraint and wisdom that humanity carried, and they realized that they had been taught a lesson that would linger longer than any battle could. Planets that had once ignored the distant humans now spoke of them with a mixture of fear and respect. Stories spread among the citizens of worlds about the single ship that had forced entire councils to reconsider their pride and strategy. The humans had returned not as conquerors or tyrants, but as a species that understood the value of observation, patience, and precise action. Their actions proved that the galaxy's calculations of power were flawed, and that even a single vessel from humanity could command attention and respect across countless star systems. In the quiet corridors of the Empire's capital, strategies were rewritten, alliances reconsidered, and treaties reevaluated. Every council chamber buzzed with debate about the humans and what their presence meant. Some argued that humans were the ultimate challenge to the old order. Others admitted that no species could match the resilience and cunning that humanity had demonstrated. Time and again, humanity had survived adversity, wars, and extinction threats, and they had done so by turning obstacles into opportunities and weaknesses into strengths. The galaxy now knew that humans were not only survivors, but also masters of tactics, patience, and foresight. The humans themselves did not gloat or celebrate their black ship, moved calmly through the void as if it were part of the darkness itself. They had accomplished what they came to do. They had reminded the galaxy that power was more than fleets, more than weapons, more than numbers. It was the courage to endure, the patience to wait, and the wisdom to act at the precise moment. The humans had returned to observe the galaxy and left behind a silent message that reverberated through every star system: that the time of underestimating humanity was over, and that every empire must consider their next steps carefully. Civilizations that had once tried to dominate the stars through fear and fire now understood that they could not intimidate a species that had learned to adapt to every environment, survive every war, and thrive against every odds. Humanity had taught the galaxy that even when hidden, the strength of one intelligent and determined species could reshape perspectives, alter decisions, and change destinies forever. The black ship became a legend whispered among fleets and empires, and a symbol that intelligence, patience, and resilience could achieve more than endless war. As the humans sailed further into the unknown void of space, their eyes turned to new stars, new worlds, and new challenges waiting silently for those who underestimated them. The galaxy would remember the lesson long after the humans were gone, that true power is measured not by force, but by the will to endure, the courage to act, and the ability to think beyond what anyone else believes possible. Every planet that had witnessed humanity's return carried a mark of awe and respect that would not fade for centuries, and every empire knew in their hearts that the humans were no ordinary species. And so the black vessel disappeared among the stars, leaving behind the echoes of strategy, patience, and ultimate intelligence. The galaxy had been tested, the lesson had been delivered, and the humans had proved once and for all that a single ship could challenge empires, reshape minds, and redefine what it means to be truly powerful. The end.